Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are glad to have you with us. Today, we are opening up a topic that I think creates more cognitive dissonance for high-performing professionals than almost anything else. It's that gap. And for some people, it is a massive canyon between your strategic intention and your actual day-to-day execution. We've got a stack of research here, principally anchored by James Clear's, his massive bestseller, Atomic Habits. But I want to set the ground rules right away. We are not approaching this as a self-help book summary. We aren't here for the motivational fluff.
No, absolutely not. Look, if you're listening to this, you likely don't need someone to tell you to believe in yourself. You don't have a deficit of ambition. You have a deficit of design. We are treating this text as an operating manual for the human machine.
I want to start with this scenario, one that I think will resonate, maybe even painfully, with a lot of you. Let's call it the good intentions fallacy, or maybe the Monday morning quarterback of personal performance. So picture the scene. It's late December, or maybe just a Sunday night. You've mapped out the Q1 strategy, your OKRs are set, your calendar is optimized, you've decided that this is the quarter you finally get back to marathon fitness, or write that strategic white paper. The new you is ready to launch.
And you feel fantastic. I mean, the dopamine is hitting just from the planning phase. You're visualizing the result, the accolades, the finished product. You are, for all intents and purposes, a changed person in that moment.
And then Wednesday happens. You're drowning in client emails. There's a fire drill with a vendor. That gym bag is still untouched in the trunk of your car, and you're ordering takeout at 8 p.m. again.
Okay.
Execution just falls off a cliff. So the question we really need to answer today is, why? We're smart, capable people. Why does the machinery break down so consistently?
It's a diagnostic error. When that collapse happens, the immediate reaction, especially for high achievers, is to blame willpower. You tell yourself you weren't disciplined enough. You beat yourself up. You think that massive success requires some kind of massive Herculean effort. But the source material we're analyzing today, it argues the complete inverse. It's not a willpower failure, it's a systems failure. You don't have a motivation problem, you have a design problem.
And that's the hook. That's what we're going to do. We're going to strip Atomic Habits down to its mechanics. We want to move from goal setting, which, let's be honest, both winners and losers do, to system building. So let's start with the definitions. The title uses the word atomic. That word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. How is Clear defining that in this context?
He defines it with this really specific duality that frames the whole methodology. First, atomic means tiny, the irreducible unit of a larger system. Think that atoms building molecules. It's something small, approachable, almost insignificant on its own. But the second meaning is energetic, atomic, as in the source of immense power. So an atomic habit is a routine that's small and easy to do, but it's also the source of incredible compounding power.
The math behind this is something I want to spend a moment on. We've all heard the soundbite get 1% better, but when you actually run the numbers, the implications are just wild.
It's the math of compounding, just applied to human behavior. If you get just 1% better each day for 1 year, you don't end up 2 or 3 times better. Mathematically, it's 1.01 to the power of 365, which is 37.78. You end up almost 38 times better. It's an exponential curve. But the inverse is just as powerful, and this is the part people forget. If you get 1% worse each day, making small errors, cutting small corners, you decline nearly to 0.
It completely reframes the whole overnight success myth, doesn't it? We look at a successful exit or a massive product launch or an athlete at peak performance, and we think it happened in some kind of quantum leap. But we're just ignoring the aggregation of all those tiny marginal gains.
Yeah, right. And there's a concept here that's so critical for executives to understand, especially those leading teams that aren't seeing results yet. Clears calls it the valley of disappointment.
I love this concept.
Yeah.
This is that phase where you're doing all the right things but seeing absolutely no output.
Exactly. The analogy he uses, and it's perfect for visualizing this, is an ice cube. An ice cube is sitting on a table in a room that's 25 degrees. You want to melt it, so you start heating the room. 26 degrees, 27, 28, and the ice cube is just sitting there. Structurally, nothing has changed. To an outside observer, maybe your board or your investors or even yourself, you're wasting your time. You're putting in energy and getting 0 return.
29, 30, 31. Still an ice cube.
Exactly. And this is the point where most people quit. They say, I've been working hard for a month and nothing has changed. But then you hit 32 degrees. And the state change happens. The ice begins to melt.
The insight being that the energy you used to heat the room from 25 to 31 wasn't wasted.
Well, it was stored, its latent potential. And this leads to one of the most important takeaways from all this research. Results are a lagging measure of habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. We usually give up because we're stuck in that gap, that valley of disappointment where we're putting in the effort, but the thermometer hasn't hit 32 yet.
That is a crucial shift in perspective for anyone playing a long game. It really explains why fake it till you make it is just a fundamental misunderstanding of the lag time of a system. Okay, so that sets the stage. Now I want to get into the machinery. How does a habit actually function biologically? Because we're not just talking about routines or discipline here. We're talking about actual neurological feedback loops.
We have to look at the brain as a prediction machine. It isn't just reacting to the world, it's constantly scanning the environment to predict what will happen next, all to save energy. And Clear breaks this down into a 4-step loop that runs every single human behavior. So if you want to engineer a behavior, you have to understand these 4 steps: cue, craving, response, and reward.
Okay, let's walk through those, starting with the cue.
The cue is the trigger. It's a bit of information that predicts a reward. In our evolutionary past, this might have been seeing a berry bush, or, I don't know, identifying a water source. Today, it's the notification badge on your email icon, the smell of coffee, or just walking into a dark room. The cue tells your brain, hey, there might be something interesting or validating or urgent waiting for you.
And then comes the craving. And I think this is where a lot of people get confused. You don't actually crave the phone itself. You don't crave the light from the screen.
No, you crave the change in state the phone promises. This is the motivational force. You don't crave the cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief from stress. You don't crave the email. You crave the resolution of uncertainty. You don't crave turning on the television. You crave the distraction. The craving is always about the desire to fix some kind of internal problem.
Then they have the response, the actual action.
The response is the habit you perform: picking up the phone, lighting the cigarette. And whether or not you actually do it depends on 2 variables: how motivated you are, so the magnitude of the craving, and how much friction is in the way. If the response requires more energy than you're willing to spend, the loop breaks. This is where ability comes in.
And finally, the reward, the payoff.
Right. The reward serves 2 purposes. It satisfies the craving, and this is crucial, it teaches the brain. If you check your phone and see a funny text, your brain stamps that sequence. Hey, that was good. Next time the phone buzzes, do that again. It closes the loop. It reinforces the connection between the cue and the response.
So the strategic insight here, and this is why we're calling it a system, is that if a behavior is insufficient in any of those 4 stages, it just will not become a habit.
Precisely. If you eliminate the cue, the habit never starts. If you reduce the craving, you have no motivation. If you make the response too hard, you won't do it. And if the reward is unsatisfying, you won't repeat it. So when we look at fixing our workflows or our health, we have to troubleshoot which part of this 4-step engine is broken. Usually we just try to brute force the response and we completely ignore the cue, the craving, and the reward.
Okay, let's transition to the how-to. We're going to build what we'll call the habit system stack. We'll map Clear's 4 laws of behavior change directly onto this loop. But before we even get to the tactics, there's a foundational layer that Clear argues has to come first. Layer 1 is identity.
This is, I think, the most overlooked part of behavior change. Most people focus on the outcome, what they want to get. I want to lose 20 pounds. Or they focus on the process, what they do. I'm going to run every day.
Yeah.
But real lasting change happens at the identity level, at what you believe about yourself.
The example from the text that clarifies this so well involves 2 people refusing a cigarette. It seems like such a small semantic difference on the surface.
It's a subtle linguistic shift, but it signals a massive psychological difference. So you offer a cigarette to person A, and they say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. Now, that sounds reasonable, but the underlying logic is, I am a smoker who is currently trying not to smoke. They still identify as a smoker. They're acting against their own belief about themselves.
Versus person B.
Person B just says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. It's a hard shift in identity. Smoker is part of their past, not their present. So they aren't resisting temptation. They're just acting in alignment with who they believe they are.
So for the executive listening, the takeaway is to stop setting goals to write a book or run a marathon.
Right. Instead, start casting votes to be a writer or be a runner. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And Clear makes the point that you don't need a unanimous vote to win an election, you just need a majority. So if you write one page today, you've just cast a vote for I am a writer. If you go to the gym for 20 minutes, you cast a vote for I am an athlete.
It moves the metric away from this binary success or failure model to an accumulation of evidence. And it feels so much more sustainable because you aren't waiting for the outcome to feel good about yourself. You feel good about just casting the vote. Okay, so let's look at layer 2 of the stack. Optimizing the cue and the craving. This corresponds to the first two laws. Make it obvious and make it attractive.
All one. Make it obvious. Most people think they lack motivation when, in reality, they just lack clarity. They'll say something like, I'm going to work out more. That means nothing to your brain. You need what he calls an implementation intention.
And the formula for that is surprisingly rigid. Why is that rigidity so important?
It has to be rigid to cut through the noise of daily life. The formula is, I will behavior at time and location. It's not, I'll read more. It's, I will read 10 pages at 7 a.m. in my kitchen chair. You're giving the cue a specific time and place to live in the world. So when that time and place arrive, the decision is already made. You don't have to expend any willpower deciding if you should do it.
And then there's habit stacking. This is leveraging something called the Diderot effect, right?
Yes. The Diderot effect is the idea that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption. One action triggers the next. We can use that for good. You probably already have strong established habits. You brush your teeth, you pour coffee, you check your email. The idea is to chain the new habit you want to build onto one of those old ones. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit.
So after if I pour my coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds.
Exactly. You're anchoring the new behavior to a trigger that is already hardwired in your brain. You don't have to remember to meditate anymore. The act of pouring coffee is the reminder. It creates a chain reaction.
Okay, that covers make it obvious. How do we then make it attractive? This is law 2.
This is all about leveraging the craving. We want to use something called temptation bundling. You pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
There's a great engineering story about this in the source material involving a guy named Ronan Byrne. I love this because it's so extreme, but it's so effective.
Right, the electrical engineering student in Dublin. He loved watching Netflix, but he knew he needed to exercise. And he also knew he was, well, lazy. So he hacked his stationary bike. He wrote a program that connected the bike to his laptop, and Netflix would only play if he was pedaling at a certain speed. If he slowed down, Netflix paused.
He literally had to power his entertainment with his exercise.
He did. He bundled the want, which was Netflix, with the need, which was cycling. For a professional, this might look something like, I only get to listen to my favorite true crime podcast while I'm processing my expense reports. You shift the framing from, I have to do this boring thing, to, I get to do this fun thing. It makes the hard thing attractive by association.
Okay, let's move to layer 3. Optimizing the response and the reward. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Law 3, make it easy.
This is all about friction. Human behavior follows the law of least effort. We will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of energy. So if you want to build a good habit, you have to reduce the friction associated with starting it.
And this brings us to environment design. The idea that we are architects of our own choices.
There's a concept mentioned in the text from an IT guy named Oswald Knuckles called resetting the room. It's basically proactive laziness. When he finishes watching TV, he puts the remote back on the stand, he fluffs the pillows, folds the blanket, he resets the environment so that the next time he enters, there is zero friction to starting the right action.
It's like mise en place for your life. You know how chefs lay out all their ingredients before they start cooking?
Exactly that. If you want to work out in the morning, making it easy means your gym clothes are laid out, your shoes are by the door, and your water bottle is filled the night before. You are removing the steps between you and the good behavior. And conversely, you want to increase friction for bad habits. If you want to watch less TV, take the batteries out of the remote and put them in another room.
And tied to this is the 2-minute rule. This is one of my favorites because it just stops that mental spiral of, oh God, I had to do this huge, awful thing.
The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. So run a marathon becomes tie my running shoes. Write a book becomes write one sentence.
Some people hear that and they think it sounds ridiculous, like tying my shoes isn't a workout. It feels like cheating.
But the point isn't the workout. The point is to master the art of showing up. You have to standardize before you can optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. If you can't even manage to put on your running shoes every day, you are certainly never going to run 5 miles every day. The first 2 minutes are the gateway. Then once you're in the shoes, it's often easier to just go for a run than to take them off again.
Okay, finally, law 4, make it satisfying. This is about the reward.
The problem here is evolutionary. Our brains are wired for what you'd call an immediate return environment. We want the sugar, the status, the safety now. But modern society is a delayed return environment. You save money now for retirement in 30 years. You work out now to be healthy in 10 years. The problem is bad habits usually have immediate payoffs and good habits have delayed payoffs.
So we have to hack that system. We have to artificially create an immediate reward to bridge that gap in time.
Right. You need visual measures of progress. There's the famous paperclip strategy. There was a stockbroker who wanted to make 120 sales calls a day. He started with 2 jars on his desk. One was filled with 120 paper clips. The other was empty. Every time he made a call, he moved 1 paper clip to the empty jar.
It's so analog, but it's visceral. You can physically see the work you've done.
It provides immediate evidence. It's satisfying to watch that pile grow. It closes the feedback loop right then and there, even if the actual sale doesn't happen for weeks. It validates the effort immediately.
We've covered the theory, the 4 laws. Now, I want to get really tactical. I want to equip everyone listening with actual language they can use. Let's run through some practical scripts. These are lines you can literally say to yourself or write down to set this all up.
Let's do it. We've extracted 8 specific scripts that cover these laws pretty well.
Okay, script 1, the implementation script. This is for getting clarity.
I will meditation at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. Precision kills procrastination. Just fill in the brackets.
Script 2, the stacking script. This is for building momentum.
After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds. Anchor the new habit to an old one.
Script 3, the identity script. This is for when you're tempted to skip or you're feeling weak.
I'm the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. You're not arguing with yourself. You're stating a fact about your identity. It ends the internal debate.
Script 4, the environment script. This is based on a Japanese railway safety system called pointing and calling.
I am leaving my phone in the other room so I do not get distracted. Verbalizing the action raises it from your subconscious to your conscious mind. It makes you aware of what you're doing so you don't just sleepwalk into bad habits.
Number 5, the reframing script.
I don't have to make this sales call. I get to build my business.
Ah.
You shift the language from burden to opportunity. It changes the chemical response in your brain from stress to excitement.
Script 6, the reset script, for the end of the day.
I am resetting the room for tomorrow morning's deep work session. You're closing out the current task and priming the next one. It's a closing ceremony for your day.
Number 7, the 2-minute script, for when you're procrastinating and a task feels too big.
I will just open my notes. You're giving yourself permission to stop after 2 minutes, which is just enough to trick your brain into starting.
And lastly, script 8, the inversion script. This is for breaking bad habits.
I will make it invisible. This is the cue to hide the junk food, unplug the TV, or delete the app from your phone. Out of sight, out of mind.
Those are excellent. Really concrete. I want to apply this whole stack now to a specific painful scenario. Let's do a quick mini case study. The deep work struggle. I think every single knowledge worker fights this battle daily.
Okay, let's operationalize it.
So the problem, an executive needs to write a strategic brief. It's high cognitive load work, but they keep checking email and Slack every 10 minutes. The loop is broken. The bad habit checking notifications is way too easy and way too rewarding.
Right. So let's run it through the stack. We need to dismantle the bad loop and build a good one.
Okay, step 1, environment. How do we make the bad habit invisible?
The phone goes in a drawer in a different room. You have to physically remove the cue. If you can see it, even if it's face down, your brain knows it's there and you will check it. You have to remove the option entirely.
Step 2, habit stacking. Make the good habit obvious.
After I pour my coffee, I immediately close my email tab. You create a hard rule that coffee equals closing communication channels. No negotiation.
Step 3, the 2-minute rule. Make it easy. The brief is huge. It's intimidating. So how do we start?
You tell yourself, I'm not writing the brief. That's too scary. I'm just writing the first 3 headers. You lower the barrier to entry so low that you can't possibly say no.
Step 4, identity.
You adopt the mantra, I am a finisher. You're not just someone trying to work. You are a person who finishes important tasks.
And finally, step 5, reward. Make it satisfying.
Temptation bundling. After 30 minutes of uninterrupted deep work, I get to check ESPN or Instagram for 5 minutes. You use the distraction as the reward for the focus. You don't ban the fun, you just sequence it correctly.
That's a complete system. It attacks the problem from 5 different angles all at the same time.
And that's exactly why it works. Willpower fights the battle on one front. Systems fight it on all fronts.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a closing protocol. We have 3 specific actions and 1 metric for you to take away from this.
Action 1. Audit your day. Fill out a habit scorecard. Just list out what you actually do from the moment you wake up. Mark each habit as positive, negative, or neutral. You can't change what you don't notice.
Action 2.
Design 1 habit stack for your morning routine. Just 1. Write it down. After X, I will Y. Put it on a Post-it note on your coffee machine or your bathroom mirror.
And action 3.
Perform an environment reset tonight. Before you go to bed, prime your desk for tomorrow morning's most important task. Open the notebook, set out the pen, close all the irrelevant browser tabs. Make tomorrow's good habit the absolute path of least resistance.
And finally, the metric. The 1 rule to rule them all.
Never miss twice. This is so crucial. Perfection is impossible. You will miss a workout. You will eat the pizza. That's life. That's an accident. But if you miss twice in a row, that is the start of a new bad habit. Winners rebound quickly. If you break the chain, the most important thing you can do is get back on track with the very next repetition.
So that bad workout you do on the day you didn't feel like it is actually the most important one.
It's the most important one by far because it maintains the integrity of the habit. It reinforces your identity.
It's not about being perfect. It's
Right.
about being consistent. We'll leave you with the defining quote of the book, the one that really encapsulates everything we've discussed today. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
So stop focusing on the finish line. Start focusing on the reps.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.